Carl has a very fast combo hand.
Alright, stream is up so everybody knows. Alright, so let's see. We have Living End versus Yawgmoth. Brief coming in. Dr. Cheese Neil gonna be playing Living End. Whereas Carl gonna be our Yawgmoth player. So pretty quick combo hand here. Not? Neil's gonna need to find a living end real fast here, I think. But having the subtlety to be able to delay a turn might be good enough. Not sure how much time Neil can afford to use. Okay, so Neil has his colors. You gotta lead off with a cycle if you're going. Goes into Force of Negation, which is a better thing to pitch for subtlety. Yep, just put your land. I think you're just shocking here. In case you find another cycler, you want to be able to have it. Damn it. Alright. Comes Yawgmoth. Lets it resolve. Fine. Not dead yet. Needs one more undying creature to have the combo. It doesn't actually have like lethal damage, it just draws. Oh, Living End, not the draw here. Needs to find a Cascader. Alright, well that'll buy a pretty good chance at finding it. The whale's very good. Problem now becomes that if Carl finds a way to combo, that's infinite life. If there's one more undying creature, it's unlimited life, infinite life. Without the extra undying creature, it's not infinite. It's a lot, but it's not infinite. Alright, Neil has what looks like one more turn. Actually two, as the current attacks it. Carl's gonna look for another undying creature. Finds a land. Alright, gonna kill off our Strangler Geist here. Olive Roots. Again, not full combo potential, but lets you sacrifice here. Sacrifice the wall, target the wall. Just keeps going, but now we're kind of out of mana. This is like a value Yawgmoth, but like getting much
What game are we on?
done.
Nice.
Alright, so found the cord. I can only cord for one. So yep, just got a wall of roots. Still cord for one. Oh yeah, there is meat on this bones. We're still going deeper. This is a cord for one. Let me look at Carl's list. I think he can get Yawgmoth and just have infinite life, infinite draws. Oh, it's half the size of my screen? Ooh, hold on a sec. Let me... There we go. So, looks like Carl picks up game one there. Alright. Hopefully that should feel better. Alright, so Neil here on the play. Once again, doesn't have a Cascade card. Somewhat of an issue. Carl on a mold of 4. Gonna be tough. Gonna be tough. If Neil wants to, you can just grief down to 3. Just take presumably Carl's only reasonable spell. Easily end it here, but since Carl mold to 4, maybe he just doesn't feel the pressure to need to do that. I think that's fair. Goose off the top for Carl is pretty good. Quickly we'll let him accelerate into the Giralf's Messenger that he kept, or the Eldritch Evolution. Neil could also just Brazen Borrower the food if he wants to slow Carl down. It's always one of those plays that works out pretty reasonably. Alright, Neil's got all his lands, just needs to find a Cascade spell. Alright, looks like we've got a Cascade spell. So I think now Neil probably just griefs. Make sure there's nothing too imposing coming. I think you just take the Eldritch Evolution and Brazen Borrower the food. Yeah, I think if you take the Eldritch Evolution and Brazen Borrower the food. Yeah, I think if you just take the Eldritch Evolution. I think take the Eldritch Evolution, bounce the food, and then living in there. Well, I guess now you get to Brazen Borrower the Yawgmoth if you. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not entirely sure that I love that take, but I don't think it'll end up hurting Neil too much. Okay, so looks like Neil's gonna hold. Knows about the Eldritch Evolution. I wonder if he lets him cast Eldritch Evolution or just does it on draw step. Alright, you draw step so he gets the best grief value. Makes sense. A big play from Neil to do a draw step to ensure you get to see. Oh, is it a Corticam? Make a food, okay. Make food's fine. Means Carl probably drew something he didn't. So Geralf's here. Yeah, just take the Eldritch Evolution. 4, 8, 11. 14 coming in. Yeah, okay, Carl's hard locked out of lands for the rest of the game. This game's over. So we're gonna go to a game 3. Game 3. Take a look at some sideboards. Does Carl have any sideboard cards for this matchup? 3 Endurance is big game. 3 Endurance is big game. Not really sure. Yeah, Neil brought a lot of anti-hate cards for like pages and things like that, but Carl's not running any of those. Carl's a little bit more streamlined on the post-board games, so I think, yeah. All right. So now they should sideboard. As we see, I want to see what Carl brings in here. 3 Endurances for sure. Not really sure what else they bring in here. I think that's it. Maybe bring in Veil if you're concerned about Grief taking the cards you want. Okay, Neil's putting in the Ley Lines. Seems good. Stops him from being able to creature combo after the Living End. Trimming some of the cyclers. I feel like you want these Force of Negations gone. I'm not really sure what you're looking to force a negation out of Carl's list, and they have open deck lists. Like just Court of Calling or Eldritch Evolution, that's it. Nice 2 Grist. I just don't think that's enough value. I don't think you want to be 2 for 1-ing yourself here. Now you just cut these Force of Negations, and those are your last cards out here. I mean, the Brazen Borrower doesn't do much, right? Like, you know for a fact Carl doesn't have any permanent based disruption. So I think that's fine. But I don't think Force of Negation is where you want to be. And I think Neil might be running into the problem of trimming too many of his cyclers. Like, cutting both whales. Like, we're starting to run into, like, what are these Force of Negations doing compared to the cyclers? Carl submitted, took out the Grist, so that's and 1 chord, so we're down 3 targets for Force of Negation already. Force of Negation only hits Eldritch Evolution and 3 Court of Callings. We have 3 Endurance from Carl, and did bring in the 2 Veil of Summers. I like Carl's sideboard play. It's clean, makes sense to me. I think Neil is a little lost in the sauce with these Force of Negations. I think if he draws one in this game, it's gonna look real bad. Alright, so Carl's on the play. We see an endurance plus a 1-drop. This hand is probably just a keep. I mean, it's not. Yep. Neil also has a good hand, but this endurance is going to blow out what Neil's doing here. So we know Neil has at least one Cascade, but one Living End in hand already. I know a lot of Living End lists only run 3. Yep, Neil's on 3 Living Ends, so we have to be careful. If we need to flip twice, once when the endurance happens and once afterwards, if Neil draws another Living End, he will not be able to play the second flip. So Neil might just die to Living End problems. Alright, we have endurance held up. Yep, Neil's just gonna cycle some more. I doubt Carl runs out the endurance here. Yep, just draws another Hierarch. I like this, slow and steady. Just keep sitting back, keep the veil up in case of a grief, and then endurance to ensure you don't lose. You can pitch this Rex stage that isn't doing anything. I like where Carl's at. I think Neil is going to need to find a second cycler. Yep. Oh no. Carl's attack left him without green mana for Veil. That's actually huge. Oh, that's actually huge here. Carl with the attack left himself with no green mana. This grief. So this grief gets to clear the way. So then you have to respond with the endurance. Yep. Carl's attack. Yep. You also have to. Oh yeah, you also have to evoke before the grief goes to the graveyard. So now grief is guaranteed to be in the yard for the flip. You just get to take the Eldritch Evolution. Like, this is like all of the worst case scenarios, though. Yeah, that attack left Carl so behind. Like, if you get to veil this, so you get to hold your endurance, then you get to actually eat the Living End, but ugh, that's brutal. O'Neill. Cycle here. I think you just cycle again, just wait. Yeah, I think you just wait a turn or two. Could just wait, do an upkeep or a draw step, violent outburst here. But given that you know Carl has the Veil, I think you just cycle. Like, you take one hit, let Carl have one draw step. Yeah, I like this, just cycle, try to hit one more cycler between now and when you untap. You even get that full draw step. Attack seems fine. I mean, it's not doing much, but it's chip damage. All right, Neil still gets a draw. Still gets one more draw to Cycler here before flipping the board. Alright, so big thing here. The endurance comes back, so we have an endurance versus a grief, but the grief trigger will get veiled. And then we'll have Street Wraith, but no actual swamps, because Carl held the Overgrown Tomb. Yeah, so Neil just turns the board here. Because Neil played Shardless, the Veil is turned on already. Yep, so get to draw. So it could be if Carl draws the Endurance. That could have been a really bad moment. Because Neil played Shardless instead of Violent Outburst, it turned on the Veil draw. And it could have been an Endurance off the top. So I don't like that. I think you just go with the Violent Outburst. Especially since you know the Veil is there. But didn't get punished for it. And yeah, no actual swamp, so just the 5/5 gets in here. It's alright. You just get in with everything but the Shardless Agent, and then you just cast the Outburst. Yeah, I like that. I guess that's fair. Living In turns on as well. Yeah, so I guess there isn't a way to turn that off. That's fair. Yep, just actual Violent Outburst. Get in for 10, kill your Endurance. Truly, Neil on another level. Alright. Neil's gonna see an Overgrown Tomb that Carl didn't play because of the Street Wraith. Alright. What does Carl have here to draw? Cord, what do we do with Cord? Get Cord for 3. But that turns on the Street Wraith, so otherwise we're on Cord for 2. So Cord for 2 gets... check the list. It's like Strangleroot Geist. Yeah. Alright, so x equals 2. Probably gotta be... Cycle, look for a Force of Negation. Doesn't get it. Finds a Grief instead. So I think just has to get a Strangler Geist. Just block the 2/2, get another life. Carl goes to 5. So Neil has just a grief in hand. Carl draws land. Got a block. Yeah, Dried Arbor here if we're for Carl. No Dried Arbor in the list, unfortunately. Get in with both. Does not have a Dried Arbor in his list. Goes to 2. What are we looking to draw here? Yawgmoth doesn't really do anything. It's another land. Alright. Neil up 2-1. So they're going to quickly wait half a second. Should just re-challenge each other. Get in there. So currently, Living End up 2-1 over Yawgmoth. Yawgmoth will have the play. Alright, so... Yep, there we go. So, going back to our sideboarding, I really want to see if Neil keeps these Force of Negations in. I like the Leyline of the Voids. I think that's good. Get that Foundation Breaker out of there, Neil. I keep saying it. I don't want these Force of Negations. I don't like it. Don't bring the 4th one in. Come on, Neil. I liked Carl's sideboard. It's streamlined. It's Endurance and Veils. Trim a cord, trim the Grists, and get rid of your Fatal Pushes. Or your Rexage and I think a Fatal Push. Some combination in there. But like, it's just clean. Like, Neil has deck lists. He knows what Carl should be boarding in. I don't think you want Force of Negation in this matchup. Yeah, I would absolutely be putting Brazen Borrower over these Force of Negations. I can't see these Force of Negations. I want to talk to Neil after this and ask about those forces. Like, what are you hoping to hit there? Because it's still a 2-for-1. Okay, well this hand is not good for Neil. Well, Carl's on the play. I mean, this hand's great from Carl. We got Yawgmoth, we've got Geist, a Veil. We can get a chord for Yawgmoth going. I like this a lot. Ooh. Neil's Mulligan finds a Leyline, does put a real damper on these Undying creatures. Carl have any way to answer? Just the Rexage, the Force of Vigors that did not come in. So Carl has no way to answer this Leyline. Even though I think Neil discarded Leyline. Interesting. I'm curious to see what the reasoning is. I mean, I know Neil is always on top of the tech, so I would believe that he has a reasoning for it. I'm just curious what the reasoning is in this matchup. Alright, Endurance is going to negate at least one thing. Well, like, Evolution's probably fine, but you're still 2-for-1ing yourself. And, like, I'm not sure it's important enough in this matchup. I also think it's a weird situation where Neil would probably have to bring in something like the Brazen Borrowers, but he knows Carl has no permanent hate. Oh, Neil missing on land here with the cycles. Not good for Neil. Does have subtleties to pitch to the endurance. That's kind of nice. So Neil is slowly running out of time here. Not with the combo, just will slowly fall behind. I guess the clock isn't that fast, right? I'm coming in for 2, puts him down to 14 with a clock of 3 per turn. Neil's got to find a land here, though. I think if Neil misses on land, there's a good chance he just falls too far behind. Okay, finds it. I like the cycle here first from Neil. I like this a lot. You don't have any red cyclers. Okay, Neil finds a land. Perfect draws. I think here... Yeah, I think you're back on the Violent Outburst. Get rid of the whole graveyard. But I guess the other thing too is like Carl's always bringing in Veil of Summers in this matchup. So like, does that make Force of Negation worse? Like if you get your Eldritch Evolution Force of Negation and it gets veiled. But maybe that's too many steps down. I am curious what Ben Tuaf has to say about it, but it's a lot of steps down the rabbit hole with open deckless sideboarding. Alright, so Neil has 2 subtleties. Did he draw another blue card? He did, so I want to see Neil cast the Violent Outburst so that he can double subtlety if need be. Great, Craig. Thank you. Not even safe in my own channel. This is what I get. This is what I deserve. Alright, Neil sees it, plays this. Carl's gonna Endurance. It's gonna get Subtletied. Because it's an Aether Gust effect. The Veil isn't even gonna help here. Chord of Calling for the Endurance. That's such a big brain play here. Just plays around subtlety. So nice. That's such big brain. Huge. Huge brain from Carl. Well, that's... Oh! Okay. Oh, this is gonna get blown out so bad when he goes to play the Endurance. Oh no. I don't know, Carl had the biggest brain and then it overplayed. Now Carl has to flash in the Endurance. It gets subtletied, and then a subtlety comes in to play too. And Carl's just gonna get overwhelmed here. Oh, that's just brutal. Just lets it happen. Doesn't even play the Endurance. I'm confused by that line from Carl. Like, I guess you deny the subtlety, and now you just like can play a 3/4 into 3/3/3s, which is fine. Finds a land. Oh, that chord for 3 for Endurance would have been huge, but I'm just not sure. I'm just not sure it Just not sure what his plan was here, because then he lets it resolve. He gets the 2 Undying Creatures. Yep, the councils get blinked by the Veil. Carl draws another chord. Okay, so now that Leyline's gone, second chord can get Yawgmoth, can go off a little here. I think Neil might have to respect. Oh, Grief's pretty good. He knew about the Grief off the council, but Grief does allow him to play around this second chord pretty well. Trades off here, doesn't really leave a lot. I guess you can't chord for it. You could chord for the Yawgmoth there and draw. I know you'd be 1 or 2 mana short of being able to have the full combo. You just take the chord here. I like where Neil's at here. Endurance and Messenger. Carl's just gonna die to 2 attacks for 6, I think. If Carl does nothing and you just flash in this Brazen Borrower here. You look at the list, see if there's anything that punishes you, and just play this Brazen Borrower. I don't think you need double subtlety. I think you're okay here. I think you just play your Brazen Borrower, put him to 3 with 3 lethal creatures and a subtlety, and I'm not sure how you're dying. No, Neil's gonna play it slow. That's fine. It ends up being about the same. Attack for 6. The only thing this does differently is if Neil feels like he needs to double solid subtlety, it's a bit worse. So here comes the Endurance. I guess we're just Brazen Borrowing it. I think I would have rather just subtletied this. I feel like having Carl at 3 with 3 lethal attackers and subtletying the Endurance would have been the stronger line from Neil. Because like now Neil plays... Neil subtleties the Endurance if it comes down next turn, but the Young Wolf stays back. And now you're not attacking for lethal anymore. And like it's just giving Carl a few more draw steps where I don't think you want to give Carl any more time. Yeah, and like Wall of Roots comes down and blanks your offense, and like you don't have the flyer in the air because your Brazen Borrower is in exile. Like this is slowly cascading into that issue you see often of, you know, one thing different probably kills Carl this turn instead of maybe in 2 or 3 turns. And you can't subtlety here because you know about the Endurance. No, there's no way you can subtlety this Wall of Roots. How are you ever getting through? Like, he has a 3/4 reach. Like, the 3/4 reach also just shuts down your architects. I'm not a big fan of these last couple turns. Like, if Carl lets him untap and like plays it at instant speed, then it's fine, but if Carl just main phases it here. Oh, I don't like this attack. I don't think you're racing here. So I guess this attack does enable, like, if the endurance comes down and you get to block and then swing back for lethal. Yeah, Carl's gonna play around it. Nice. Okay, love to see it. Carl plays around the second subtlety. Now Neil can't attack. And also, Carl's threatening lethal. Carl has a Geralf's Messenger too, so if the endurance connects, Neil just dies here. So I guess Neil's plan is to subtlety block the endurance. Oh, this will be so brutal. If Neil blocks the Yawgmoth, he dies to Geralf's Messenger. Oh, this will be so brutal. If Neil doesn't block the endurance, he dies. And because Carl drew Yawgmoth, he has another creature that can block. I think Carl wins this. I think Neil made a couple of key errors here. He has to block endurance or he dies to the Geralf's Messenger. If he does block the endurance, no, Carl's gonna steal this game. Oh man. No, Neil. I think Neil gave that one away. I really do. Yeah, I think Neil gave that one away. So we're gonna go to a game 5 here. Neil will be on the play. But unfortunately, all right, go into a game 5. All right, let's see if Neil reevaluates these Force of Negations. All right, game 5, round 1 playoffs. Living End on the play against Black-Green Yawgmoth. I assume you would like to go first. Yacht. A yes from me on this one. This is one of Neil's worst hands to date. Also one of Carl's worst hands, so I suspect we'll see some mulligans. I like this hand. Pitch the Living End to the bottom. Get some cycling going. I like Carl's hand. It's not amazing, but it's okay. So I think we have two fair and honest hands here. Nobody's got anything too explosive, but at the same time, both hands have potential. One or two cards off of, I think, getting where they need to be. Big if I'm Neil. Not sure what you put back if you're Carl here. Probably just the Urborg. Maybe the Veil. Like if you're casting Yawgmoth on one, you're never veiling a grief. Alright. Let's see. Dear Neil, you grief here. I assume you cycle first, but if you're griefing, I think you just have to take Eldritch Evolution. Oh, no grief here is kind of sketch, because if you get your grief failed, oh boy, that is a lot for one. You get this grief failed, like Carl doesn't have to run out this Yawgmoth. But like if this grief gets veiled, you are in a world of trouble if you're Neil. Alright, Yawgmoth comes down. Carl drew another Geralf's Messenger, so a lot of Undying creatures, basically just a Yawgmoth away. It's a pretty good one. The Grief taking the Eldritch Evolution will be pretty good here. For sure. Alright, we got our Cascade. And now, oh, Neil. That's 2 times now he's gonna pass with this Grief in hand to try and do it on the turn. Okay. Okay. Good. I think it would have been a little greedy to wait that extra turn there. Yep, just take this Eldritch Evolution and put Carl pretty much on needing to draw a land to be in this game. And not just a land, it needs to be exactly a black source too. So would definitely recommend taking the Eldritch Evolution. Alright, takes the evolution. Carl finds a Stranglerootgeist here. So 2 Undying creatures, not the worst thing for Carl to have into a living end. Neil's drawn 1 living end already. Worth noting, if he draws the other 2 living ends here, not a good situation for him. Alright, finds the land for the Shardless. Like to find 1 more cycler here. Playline, it's fine. Cost of doing business. Alright, so the Shardless gets a living end, gets a grief. Carl's immediately outsized, but 2 Undying creatures with Geralf's Messenger in hand were probably a Court of Calling away from Carl being able to steal this one. Geralf's. So if Carl can find land, play Geralf's Messenger, take a... Well, I guess if he takes a bunch of damage, Yawgmoth combos off. All of Roots isn't the worst one. Oh, and those Overgrown Tombs are going to turn on this... Wraith too. I think we're just getting in there for Neil. We just put trading off with the grief. Take no. Sorry, 12. This leaves you dead to... Yeah, this just leaves you dead to... everything. Yeah, I think unfortunately Carl, though he played an incredibly good game 4 to steal it back from Neil, I do think this will be the end of the line for Carl. All right, there it is. Neil takes it 3-2. Living End. Be back next week for round 2. Thanks everybody for hanging out. VOD will be up soon. How's it going, Eddie? Just hopping off, but it's nice to see you. I should be back on tomorrow, though. Some more gameplay. I did. I judged SCG events for a long time. I was a table judge and a... Oh, I'm sure... Yeah, I definitely was there in that one. There was an Envy, I think one of the ones where Van Meter did well in, where I was the SCG judge. Oh yeah, I did a bunch of feature matches for a while, and I popped in and out. Oh yeah, I popped in and out of a bunch of SCG events. For the Invitational, that one of the ones Tom Ross won, I was the features judge. I didn't get a chance to meet CVM, but I've never heard anything bad about him.